All right, today we're going to talk about a way of learning that's all about action, all about getting up on your feet. If you're the kind of person who just has to move to really think something through, then this one's for you. So picture this. You're in a classroom, maybe a long work meeting, and you just can't sit still. Maybe you find yourself doodling all over your notebook, tapping your pen, or you're that person whose leg is always bouncing. That restless feeling? Yeah, that's a super common experience.
For the longest time, right, that kind of fidgeting was seen as a bad thing, like you weren't paying attention. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if, for some people, all that physical activity isn't a distraction at all? What if it's actually the key that helps them lock in information?
Well, that very idea is at the heart of something called kinesthetic learning. So first things first, let's break down what this hands-on approach actually is.
Kinesthetic learning, in a nutshell, is learning by doing. It's this deep-seated need to connect what you're learning to a physical activity. You need movement. You need real-world examples to really get it. Think of it as learning with your whole body, not just your brain.
To put this into perspective, it really helps to see where it fits inside a bigger framework, like Neil Fleming's VARK model. You've got visual learners who need to see things, auditory learners who need to hear them, and then you have kinesthetic learners. They're the ones who need to touch, move, and physically experience something to truly understand it. So that brings up the big question. Does this sound like you? How would you even know if you lean this way? Let's go through some common signs. And as we do, just ask yourself if any of this is ringing a bell. Okay, so people who lean this way often have fantastic hand-eye coordination and this amazing muscle memory. They can try a new sport once and just get it. They're often the ones who talk with their hands, who absolutely love building things, or are the first to take something apart just to see how it works. And yep, that classic doodling or pen tapping, that's a huge sign.
So why does all this matter? What are the actual advantages of getting up and moving while you learn? Let's get into the benefits.
When you look at the benefits, you can see just how powerful this is. Comprehension skyrockets because learners can literally feel the results. This active approach boosts creative thinking and problem solving because you're physically experimenting with solutions. Plus, just the simple act of moving increases oxygen to the brain, which helps with cognitive development. And when you do it with others, things like role-playing can be a huge boost for social skills.
Okay, so far, this all sounds pretty clear-cut, right? But now we have to hit the pause button because there is a really, really important layer of nuance to add to this whole conversation.
And this is where the story gets a lot more complex. You see, for all the talk about learning styles, a lot of researchers have started to ask a tough question. Are they even scientifically real? Is there any hard data to back this all up?
And there it is. According to the research, there isn't any concrete empirical proof that if you teach someone only in their specific style, that they actually learn any better. And as you can probably guess, this has kicked off a major debate in the world of education.
Now, this is the most important point, so listen close. This does not mean your preference isn't real. If you feel like you learn best by doing, that is absolutely valid. The critique is about putting people into these rigid little boxes. The science is basically saying that labeling someone as only one type of learner is too limiting. Your preference for hands-on activities is 100% real. The science just doesn't back up the idea that it's the only way you can learn effectively. And this chart really shows us why that preference still matters so much. Studies suggest that a pretty significant chunk of students, somewhere between 10 and 18%, identify with and do their best work using these kinesthetic methods. So even if the strict theory is debated, it's pretty clear that hands-on strategies are absolutely essential for a lot of people. So where does that leave us? Well, let's forget about the labels for a minute and just focus on what works. Let's build a toolkit of practical strategies that anyone, and I mean anyone, can use to bring more physical engagement into their learning. Okay, here we go. 5 ways to get active. 1. Take notes by hand. The physical act of writing engages your motor skills and helps with memory. 2. Build a model. If a concept is abstract, make a physical version of it. 3. Use role play. Act out a scenario to really understand it from the inside. 4. Just move while you study. Pace around the room, use a standing desk, take frequent breaks to stretch. It all makes a difference. And number 5, maybe the most powerful tool of all, teach it to someone else. Explaining a concept out loud, using your hands, forces you to solidify it in your own mind. So in the end, Maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of trying to fit ourselves into a nice, neat box, the real power comes from expanding our toolkit. The goal isn't to define what you are, but to explore all the different ways you can understand the world. So the real question is, what new way can you try to learn today?